sport has always been seen as a critical institution amongst all great societies of the past. Whether it be the first Olympic Games in ancient Greece, to the gladiatorial battles in ancient Rome, to the installation of modern athletics and sports entertainment today in American society. Sport has played various roles within ancient and modern society, from being a unifying factor amongst fractured or separated societies, to becoming a source of national pride amongst competing nations, and certainly not least of all, as a distraction for the masses. Give them bread and circuses, and they will never revolt. This quote is attributed to the Roman poet, Juvenal. It is well documented that in ancient Rome, when the people, i.e. the plebeians, had their food, bread, and their entertainment, the games held in places such as the Colosseum, they were happy and, more importantly, controllable. Roman sports were often violent spectacles designed to entertain the masses. Gladiatorial matches, which originated as funeral rites, evolved into grand public events held in arenas such as the Colosseum. These brutal battles between trained fighters, criminals, and prisoners of war became a means for emperors to display power and placate the populace. The people of the ancient world adored the distraction that sport provided from the perils and woes of everyday life, especially in the decline of the empire. Often you can see an uptick in the promotion of sport or entertainment in times of great turmoil. The period from 70 to 90 AD was marked by significant turmoil in the Roman Empire, particularly following the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD during the First Jewish-Roman War. This era saw political instability, including the rise of various claimants to power and the eventual ascension of emperors like Vespasian and his son Titus, who faced challenges in maintaining control over the empire and dealing with ongoing revolts, such as the Jewish rebellion that continued until 73 AD. Coincidentally, the Great Colosseum of Rome was built between 70 and 80 AD, a place that showed great fights, circuses, simulated combat, and even mock naval battles, all at a time when revolt and uncertainty plagued the Roman Empire abroad. We see great palaces of grandeur, erected as symbols of power and authority, in order to captivate the masses and display to them that power as a concept in itself was meant for those of higher status. These displays of grandeur do an excellent job of separating empowered from powerless, and they went to great lengths to make that apparent. Emperors, not unlike today's suite levels, had their own podiums in the crowd, simultaneously with the masses, yet always and eternally above and separate. Many of the plebeians could see through this arrangement, yet lacked any real influence due to the lack of widespread connectivity, while the majority of the masses gleefully sat around, getting fat and drunk off the wine and scraps left behind by the ruling class of society, inoculating themselves week after week, while their homeland delved further into chaos and eventually ruins. This would lay the foundation for later campaigns to move sport into the spotlight within the budding Western world. The Freudian reality principle describes how industrial society embraced a system of compromises to organize life around values and philosophies that reduced ambiguity, insecurity, and uncertainty. It did this by establishing institutionally approved guidelines for what was considered proper behavior. Industrial English society structured daily life around deferred gratification, rigid work routines, and institutional norms to suppress the chaos of unchecked desires, fostering a sense of stability amid rapid urbanization and economic upheaval. However, this framework also paved the way for sports, particularly football, to emerge as a sanctioned outlet for releasing pent-up tensions, channeling the id's aggressive and pleasure-seeking impulses into predictable, spectator-driven spectacles that reinforced social order rather than challenging it. Mix in the mass production of ales and spirits, as well as the bane of gambling, and you have the recipe for a society ready to defer all of its woes and indiscretions to the hands of a small ruling class in exchange for a quiet and peaceful weekend at the pubs with their mates, drinking and gambling their prime years away, and eventually becoming just another generation that entrenched itself deeper into inoculation. This distraction mechanism echoes the ancient Roman strategy of bread and circuses, where elites pacified the masses with sustenance and entertainment to prevent unrest, a tactic adapted in modern Britain to maintain the status quo during periods of legislative manoeuvring. Ultimately, sports in industrial England served as both a safety valve for ambivalence, reducing insecurity through predictable rituals, and a tool for elite distraction, ensuring that while fans debated matches, parliaments enacted laws prioritizing capital over labor, perpetuating the trade-offs of a society engineered for control. In the American context, the NFL perfected the Freudian reality principles mechanisms of distraction and conformity on a grander, more commercialized scale than English football, transforming industrial-era trade-offs into a hyper-capitalist spectacle that channels societal frustrations into ritualized entertainment while embedding institutional control. Emerging in the early 20th century amid America's own industrial boom, marked by factory work, urbanization, and labor strife, the NFL evolved from semi-professional roots in the 1920s to a professional powerhouse by the mid-century, mirroring the growth of mass media and consumer culture. Like its English counterpart, it provided a safety valve for the working class, offering vicarious thrills through violent, team-based competition that sublimated aggressive impulses into predictable weekly rituals, fostering a sense of community and national unity without threatening the economic order. However, the NFL amplified this through television dominance starting in the 1950s, turning games into national events that dwarfed local English leagues in reach and revenue, deliberately engineered to align with deferred gratification. Fans endure grueling workweeks, then release tensions via tailgating, fantasy leagues, and cheers, reinforcing the appropriate behavior of passive spectatorship over active dissent. This perfection as a distraction tool draws directly from the bread and circuses archetype, where the NFL, subsidized by government exemptions like its tax-free status and antitrust protections, delivers affordable escapism, broadcasts, and cheap concessions, alongside gladiatorial violence, pacifying the masses amid policies that exacerbate inequality. The league's socialist-like structures, such as revenue sharing and salary caps, ensure competitive parity across markets, preventing dominance by wealthy coastal teams and maintaining broad appeal that unites a divided populace, even as it diverts scrutiny from corporate welfare and labor exploitation. Critics note how this setup echoes Roman tactics, with the NFL's multi-billion-dollar empire, fueled by ads, merchandise, and media deals, keeping eyes on the field while real-world grievances like wage stagnation or deindustrialization fester unchecked. The Super Bowl epitomizes this mastery, evolving into America's ultimate circus since its 1967 inception, drawing over 100 million viewers annually and generating billions in economic activity that overshadows policy debates. During these events, adverse actions, like the 2004 halftime controversy allegedly distracting from the Iraq War or Israeli strikes on Rafah coinciding with broadcasts, highlight how the spectacle blunts public outrage, allowing legislation on taxes, surveillance, or foreign aid to pass with minimal resistance. The NFL's own lobbying, spending millions on issues like drone regulations or AED placements, further entrenches this, as owners and the league wield influence to protect their model while fans fixate on plays, not the systemic inequities it sustains. The Romans, Greeks, and historical English would gaze in awe at America's NFL-driven Bread and Circuses model, a masterclass in channeling societal tensions into a polished, hyper-commercial spectacle that surpasses their own attempts at distraction and control. The Romans, with their gladiatorial arenas and grain dolls, pacified restless masses to maintain imperial order, yet their reach was limited by physical amphitheaters and local logistics. The Greeks, through athletic festivals like the Olympics, fostered cultural unity, but lacked the scale to consistently divert attention from political machinations. The English, harnessing football to soothe industrial-era discontent, came closer, yet their regional leagues paled against America's nationwide, media-saturated juggernaut. The NFL, with its Super Bowl extravaganzas, television dominance, and revenue-sharing socialism, perfects this ancient art, uniting a fractious nation under a veneer of shared passion, while legislation favoring elites slips through unnoticed. Its ability to transform Freud's reality principle into a multi-billion-dollar machine, blending violent catharsis, consumerist loyalty, and institutional conformity, would leave the ancients envious of a system that distracts so thoroughly, it renders rebellion unthinkable.